So we're starting a podcast. If you have no idea who I am, I'm Mark Darrah. I worked at BioWare from 1997 until 2021. And then after a brief time away, I came back as a contractor to help the Dragon Age team finish Dragon Age the Veilguard. I've worked on franchises like Baldur's Gate and Jade Empire, but I'm probably most well known for my work leading the Dragon Age team, which I did for quite a long time. I now have a YouTube channel where I talk about video games, focused on video games from the development side, the way games are made, the way games are thought about, and the way that the businesses around games operate. Usually the ways that the business affect game development in negative ways. If any of that sounds interesting, then you might want to check out the YouTube channel. For season 1 of the podcast, the episodes will be going back through my Memories and Lessons episodes, which will re-examine the games that I worked on and talk about what I remember and the lessons that I learned while working on them. There's a lot of good lessons to be gleaned from my more than 25 years working in video games. This is a good entry point if you're curious about the ways that games are made, the things that I've learned throughout those years. And it's also an interesting way to watch the way that the game industry has evolved since the late 90s up until now. Since I've worked on games that actually have come out in 4 different decades, I've been able to watch the video game industry as it has evolved. And in some cases, matured and gotten more established as a business, and in some cases, maybe stayed in its infancy. If you watch the videos on my channel, these episodes will be very similar to those videos, so you don't necessarily need to watch them a second time, but I have found them interesting on a second listen, so you may as well. Once we finish looking at all the games that I worked on, we'll be done with season 1 of the podcast, and then after that, we will broaden the topics to other things. If you are interested in the games that BioWare has made, I will cover a large proportion of those games because I worked on more than half of the games that BioWare has ever produced. So if you're interested, think about giving the podcast a listen. Think about following along as we make our way through those games. If you're interested in broader video game topics, I would consider giving this a listen as well because there's a lot of lessons to be learned as well. Once we're done with Memories and Lessons, we will talk about a broader range of topics, both from my back catalog of videos, but also some new things as we look for new opportunities to talk about video games. One of my big goals is to try to leave the video game industry in a better state than I found it. I think I've been mostly successful with that, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So follow along for the continuation of that journey. The podcast should be available on all the standard podcast providers. We are currently having a little struggle getting it, ironically, onto YouTube Music, but hopefully by the time you are watching this, that is all resolved. I hope you'll give the podcast a chance. Thank you for your time.